Hi, my name is Jessica Torres, and this is my PowerPoint, Chapter 15, Economic and Environmental Policy. All right, so jumping right into it, economics and environmental policy are universal concepts embraced by countries all over the world. These are crucial principles, and they enable the growth, expansion, and attainment of wealth in many, many countries. To understand exactly what these concepts are, let's break it down. First, we have economy. Economy is a noun and it's used to describe trade and industry. Understanding this concept is extremely important when you're trying to learn how economy works. The second part is environmental policy. Environmental policy is better understood when you break it into two separate words. The first word being environment. And that's going to refer to the world that's around you. The second word is policy. What policy is, it's a bunch of ideas. A bunch of ideas that a group of people come up with and agree upon, and eventually a policy is made. Now that we understand how those two words work, let's go ahead and explore how they work together and why. The government is made up of many different functions. All of these functions kind of rotate around economy and environmental policy. The reason for this is because not only does it improve the lives of many people, but it also improves the livelihood of many people as well. Here we have regulatory action, promotion, monetary policy, and fiscal policy. But what do these do? What they do is they help create and maintain economic growth. They also protect the environment from harm caused by business and consumer activities. Take, for example, regulatory action. What this does is it sets up limits on what businesses can and cannot do. Setting these limits help to reduce the impact of pollution on the environment. The government achieves economic goals through promotion of private interests, and monetary and fiscal policy, well, those involve balancing decisions. These decisions are decisions that apply to the supply of money, government spending, the supply and demand of the consumer, things such as that. So you remember when Black Friday was a thing? People would get in lines and wait hours upon hours to purchase electronics, video games, toys, whatever it may be. And sometimes the demand of the consumer was not always met. But sometimes they were. And sometimes an overproduction of product was created. Adam Smith proposed the idea that private companies should have the freedom to make their own production choices. Now, by this, he means in order to have this much product, there has to be this much of a demand. Smith believed that this invisible hand is what guided consumers' decisions in the capitalist system. Let's revisit that Black Friday concept, shall we? So let's say that there's a company out there that makes, I don't know, we'll say plastic toy horses. And let's say that everybody in America demanded to have one of these little toy horses. The company who produces these horses cannot provide enough for the demand. So, to meet the demand of these people, the businesses decide to cut corners. Cutting these corners allows for more horses to be produced, but at the same time also encourages unethical practices to be made. This is where the government steps in. Government decided this is not okay. You have to stop doing these unethical practices and stop having so much waste. This regulation of this business practice is also regarded to as limits. So U.S. firms are not permitted to operate as they please, but instead they're required to adhere to limits set by the government. Which brings us to economic efficiency. Peak efficiency is reached when the output of goods and services matches the demand. This occurs when there is minimal waste, and this allows society to obtain the maximum possible goods and services from the resources. It is believed that the free market is the absolute best way to achieve efficiency. The free market uses as few resources as possible. This keeps the prices low and affordable for the public. And low prices means more attractive product to the consumers. A little healthy competition never hurt anybody. Healthy competition is actually crucial for a thriving economy. In the early days, railroad transportation was the only transportation to move goods from place to place. Because there is no competitors, the railroads can set whatever price they wanted to. Of course, this resulted in several problems. To address these problems, Congress passed the Interstate Commerce Act of 1887. Passing this act also established the Interstate Commerce Commission. And now the commission is tasked with regulating the prices set by the railroad companies, which means they can't set those prices so crazy anymore. Now they have to follow the rules. Thanks to the ICC, fair and equal pricing regulation was created. This prevents any one monopoly to overcharge for services and goods. Eventually, the creation of federal agencies specifically aimed at enhancing efficiency, such as the FTC or the Federal Trade Commission, were created. And as you can imagine, balancing business regulation and federal regulation can be very challenging. Too much regulation can stifle a business, which leads to failures. But too little regulation can empower that business to engage in unethical and risky practices. It is important to strike the right balance between business success and ethical conduct. Economic equity? Well, that happens when economic transaction is fair to everyone. There are three waves of equity that work together to ensure fair and equal transactions. The first wave, that came during the Progressive Era, and it marked the introduction of the FDA. The second wave came during the Great Depression. This is characterized by the New Deal reforms, which were aimed at curbing unfair business practices. This era also paved the way for fair labor standards, which guaranteed fair wages, commonly known today as the minimum wage. And of course, Wave 3, well, that unfolded during the 1960s and 70s. This one had to be the most important wave of them all. This one emphasized environmental protections. This period saw the establishment of the EPA, which is the Environmental Protection Agency, among dozens of other agencies dedicated to preventing harmful business activities. The Environmental Protection Agency was created in 1970. The EPA was designed to regulate and enforce the national environmental laws. The creation of this agency, it led to cleaner air, water, and land. It is quite possibly the most important agency ever created in the history of the United States. After the Great Depression, the National Labor Relations Act empowered workers to negotiate their wages with employers. This is very important as it led to an advancement in employee-employer relationships. As you may or may not know, agriculture is extremely important to the American government. And because of this factor, the government not only helps businesses and workers, but they help farmers as well. In fact, agriculture takes the biggest piece of the pie. The government provides federal payments, assistance, and support by allowing for billions of dollars to be used for farmers' assistance. In conclusion, understanding how government processes function requires grasping the various concepts that constitute the government as a whole. Each component acts as a piece of a larger puzzle. All these collaborate together, and they all have a shared objective. In this scenario, the aim is to maintain a stable and efficient economy without depleting natural resources. Implementing rules and regulations to uphold these policies is very essential for achieving economic success.